Been bugging you? Come on in. Let's go for a drive. Well, Dr. Thomas Ward,
Yeah,
thanks for joining me in Roscoe for a little episode of What's Bugging You.
it's good to be here, man.
Man, this is fun. And we've had you here talking with our students, and something came up in class that I wanted to ask you a little more about, and maybe our listeners will appreciate it as well. So when we consider Christianity and morality, oftentimes I can know what to do, like I know the right thing to do, and even growing up, I was a pretty obedient kid. So oftentimes I know what to do, I know what the right thing is to do, and oftentimes I'll do it because I know that it's right. But to be honest with you, I don't always desire to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Even when I do the right thing, I still don't desire. And I know Paul has this, cool little dialogue with himself where sometimes I actually do the things I don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I fight to do the things that I ought to do, but I don't want to do them. And so, anyway, with what I heard you talking with the students, like with temptation and desires and ordering our loves, I thought maybe you could just help me out.
Yeah.
Is it important to desire also to do the right things? It seems like it, but how does one affect that heart? Like, head and hands, pretty simple. But how do you affect what you want to do?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's a huge theme in Christian spirituality. I mean, I think it's got to be pretty clear, right, that God wants us not only to serve Him in this servile, slavish way, but wants us to be something like His friends. After all, that's what Jesus tells His disciples in John 17, that no longer do I call you servants, I call you friends. And when friends do things for each other, ideally, maybe not always, but ideally they're happy to do things for each other. If you're my friend and I recognize that you have some need, unless it's extremely onerous, I'm going to be really happy to fulfill that need. So friendship is not the only way of characterizing our relationship with God, but I think it's an important one, especially since Jesus is the one who gave it to us.
Right. So there's something more than doing good to someone just to get that thing in return, but you do it just because you desire to see them benefit. That's when it comes to friendship. Anyway.
Yeah. But part of the joy of being a friend is that you might be doing good things for the sake of your friend, but because it's your friend and not, say, your boss, you enjoy doing that good thing for your friend's sake. So there's this dynamic where you're not doing the good thing for your friend primarily for your own benefit, but in doing the thing for the other's benefit, you're filled with joy about that. Now, I think that, and so that's at least got to be part of it, I think.
Yeah, I think so. That's a weird, mysterious sort of thing about Christianity too, isn't it? Like, in the desire to give up your own life, you end up getting it.
Yes.
In the desire to serve others, not for yourself but for them, you actually end up being fulfilled. I understand that I've had even experiences of that.
Yeah.
But there's still this. It seems like I ought to be doing better. It seems like I ought to be training my desires in some sort of way, and I don't know. Maybe you could speak to that. It seems like in some way, just by being obedient, sometimes that does affect my heart. Mm-hmm. Is that the only way to go about it? And to what extent does that actually help? Is there anything more that could help?
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's a lot of wisdom in the idea of practice makes perfect, right? And we know that if we're trying to develop a skill, or to learn how to play an instrument, you have to put in a lot of time. That repetitive commitment to practice makes playing, turns you into a good player. But it also makes the playing of the instrument more enjoyable. The more facility you have with playing the instrument, the more joy you'll get out of playing. So if you think about obedience as a part of the Christian life, where there are commandments, we're supposed to follow them. Sometimes that's really hard for us. if we commit to a life of obedience, sure, there are going to be times where it's really painful to do what we know is the right thing to do. But over years and years of that long obedience in the same direction, just as practicing an instrument makes us more proficient players and makes us able to get more joy out of it, so too becoming proficient in obedience makes obedience itself more joyful. And I think another part of this too is coming to see that what God requires of us is not totally alien or foreign to our deepest desires. That ultimately, although God really does place commandments on us and wants us to serve others for others' sake, God, who knows human nature better than any human being does, knows that really it's ultimately for our good, our joy, that we become the sort of people who can genuinely act for God's sake, genuinely act for the sake of others, and not just for our own sakes.
So if he's actually the designer and creator, he knows what will truly fulfill us.
Exactly.
And therefore, when he gives us, hey, here's how you live a life of worship, the worship is the very thing that we need.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it might feel like bitter medicine for a while, but as you yourself are transformed, it becomes tasty.
Yeah.
Taste and see that the Lord is good.